Governor Hope Uzodinma backs out of a promise to name those responsible for insecurity in Imo State, as he says he wants to give security operatives time. And 97 kidnapped victims regained freedom from bandits kingpin Terji in Zamfara. A big win for the security operatives. However, there are still people in captivity as Kaduna also witnesses attacks. Well, hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Kayode Okikelu here in Lagos. Well, we start off with one of the biggest stories in the country today, and it concerns security. Well, 97 people who had been kidnapped in Shinkafi and Safi local government areas of Zamfara State have now regained their freedom. Well, they include 19 babies below 7 months old, 16 children between 2 and 7 years, and 7 pregnant women. Well, the State Commissioner of Police, Ayuba Al-Kana, who gave the breakdown, says 68 of them were captives of notorious bandit known as Bello Terji for over 3 months, while 29 of them were said to have been abducted by bandit kingpin known as Ado Aleru. All the rescued victims are currently receiving medical treatment from the joint medical teams of the state government and the police.
The police operatives, in collaboration with genuine repentant bandits and vigilante groups, swung into action and rescued the 68 victims from the forest. The victims were in captivity for over 3 months and include 33 male adults, 7 male children, 3 female children, and 25 women, including pregnant and nursing mothers, respectively. The victims hailed from Magaria, Maradun, Gusau of Zamfara State, and Sabon Birni local government area of Sokoto State. In another development, we have rescued of 29 kidnapped victims from Safi local government area. The victims were abducted for over 60 days from 3 villages, namely Adarawa, Ghana, and Bayawuri in Rijia district of Gusau local government area. They include 25 females, including pregnant and nursing mothers, and 4 male children.
So the Commissioner of Police narrating how the abductees regain their freedom. But still in the same Zamfara State, the abductors of a wife and 2 daughters of a lecturer with the Federal College of Education Technical Gusau, Dr. Abdurazak Muazu, are demanding 15 million naira as ransom. Well, they were kidnapped on New Year's Eve in their home at Marere village on the outskirts of Gusau town. And next door in Kaduna State, bandits have killed 7 members of the same family during a late-night attack on Sabon village in Igabi local government area. And in a separate attack by bandits, in fact, series of attacks, at least 17 people have been killed in 13 other villages in Kira ward, also in Igabi local government area. Well, the State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arwan, who's been speaking on the attacks, says security agencies are working to prevent a reoccurrence. So clearly, mixed bag of results, sort of. While the government continues to, battle insecurity, there's also work to be done in the area of economy, improving the economy and the livelihoods of Nigerians. And to that extent, the president has appointed Dr. Doyin Salami as his chief economic advisor. Well, before now, Dr. Salami was the chairman of the Presidential Economic Advisory Council, so he's not new to giving the president economic advice. He's expected to recommend to the president national economic policies to foster macroeconomic stability, promote growth, create jobs, and eradicate poverty, among others. So that's, not entirely a new person on the team, but a new position for the president. So that's in the area of security. But let's bring you one of the big issues for tonight. Today, January the 4th, was meant to be a day of revelations, as it were. In fact, it was meant to be a day of unveiling when people would eventually get to know those behind insecurity in Imo State. But the governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodimma, had on Saturday, December the 18th, that was last year, given his word that these people will be unveiled to the people of Imo State. I'd like you to take a listen to what Governor Hope Uzodimma said last year that made people anticipate today's meeting. So take a listen to Governor Hope Uzodimma last year.
Whether you're a pagan, when I was invited to cheer, it's only a fool who abandoned.
Okay, we'll try to bring you that, but let's come back to what happened today. So the countdown began after December the 18th. All the people had to do was exercise some patience for 16 days at first, till January the 3rd. But then the date for the stakeholder meeting was later shifted to January the 4th, which is today. So it was no surprise that the Sam Mbakwe Executive Chambers in the Government House, Owerri, the state capital, was filled to capacity with Imo sons, daughters, leaders in the states, and other dignitaries. And the anticipation in the room was actually palpable. Then the governor took his time to give a scorecard of his administration across various sectors, from infrastructure to health, education, and more. He was sort of leaving the best for the last. And then the moment came at exactly 1 hour, 24 minutes into his speech. However, the revelation was not to be. Okay, not to worry. I mean, we're working behind the scenes to give you those, incidents that played out last year, December the 18th, and of course, the governor's speech today. But overall, this might be disappointing to those who are looking forward to some earth-shattering revelations, quite all right, especially because a lot has happened between December the 18th, when the governor made that promise, and today, from the arrest of Mr. Uche Nwosu to former Governor Rocha Sokorocha blaming Governor Uzodimma for the arrest, and then a response from the State Commissioner refuting those allegations. So we'll get you the answers, not to worry. But let's begin our conversation tonight with some party affairs. We're counting down to the planned APC convention next month. And as it is now, there are a lot of moves actually within the APC, people eyeing, leadership positions within the party. So tonight, we'll be speaking with a man who has his eyes actually set on the leadership position of the APC. We're joined by Mr. Saliu Mustafa, who is a former APC National Vice Chairman Northeast and an APC chairmanship aspirant. Well, thank you for joining us on the program tonight. And first, let's talk about the timing of this convention. I mean, it's coming, just over a year to next year's presidential, governorship, general election. So can you tell us, do you think your party is cutting it too close, perhaps, seeing that you could have done this earlier when the first tenure of a caretaker committee elapsed before it was, eventually extended?
First of all, thank you very much for having me. Actually, party administration is something that is very cumbersome, and there is no one pamphlet that you get and say, okay, you get the nitty-gritties of how to run a party, because you are dealing with complex interests. For you to aggregate these interests is very hard. And, there's a lot of misgivings within the party when this caretaker took over. And the caretaker, had to do a lot of things to see that they aggregate this interest and accommodate most of them, so much so that by the time they will hand over a healthy party. So I think there is no hurry. I will not say the convention, if it comes maybe by any time this year, is going to be too close, because by the time they do the convention, they must have settled most of the grievances, and which are the main issues that could have be detrimental to the party. Even if it's a new regime or new working committee that took over, they
will have to now contend with these issues. But once you hand over a healthy party, even if it's no matter how close it is to election, you have a very sound primaries, and people will be contented because they will actually get justice once the caretaker is able to settle all these grievances within the party.
But you'll agree with me that the party leadership is meant to essentially, steer the affairs of a party up until the election and even beyond. So their position, them settling down and, understanding the ropes is quite important. And I ask again, do you think they will have enough time? I mean, we'll talk about those issues, those grievances, but let's imagine that convention holds February. Will they have enough time to settle down, bring the ranks, together and prosecute that election?
Yeah, yeah. 1 year is a lifetime when it comes to party administration. First of all, the science of running a party is for you to reduce the stakes. It's when the stakes are high and people are anticipating possibility of injustice. People will not be apprehensive, and they will not begin to act irrationally, and all this will now metamorphose into a do-or-die affair, which will now variably, invariably bring serious discord that will end up disintegrating, even killing the party. But by the time you aggregate people's interests, from the world congresses, you get it right. State congresses, you get it to a large extent right. You can see that the discontent is not like too much, but most of the stakeholders have been taken care of, and in their various domains and various states, they have accommodated their interests. So you find out that by the time you do the convention, there will be less issues. What you have to contend with is the primaries. And as you are starting the primaries, you set your timetable, which is also going to be, which is also announced by INEC, which you have to also nationally abide by the rules of INEC with regards to timelines. You have your primary committees, you have your appeal committees, and also you do some ad hoc committees that will go around to like see that they resolve dispute between people. So I want to believe the time is enough for us for any administration to do primaries and do any other nomination processes hitch-free, because the foundation is being laid by the caretaker committee, so much so that the rankles are less to a large extent. And it's not as if we are not saying that they cannot do better. There's room for improvement, but at least they have accommodated a lot of interest, and a lot of grievances have been solved, unlike when it was a one-man show, So at least to a large extent, I want to believe 1 year is enough, and we'll get it right this time.
It's interesting you say that 1 year is a lifetime, I mean, for a party. So, I mean, the caretaker leadership was put in place, June 2020. The tenure was extended by 6 months. So they've probably had almost 2 lifetimes. I mean, judging from June 2020, by this June, it will be 2 years.
Yeah.
So they've had almost about 2 lifetimes. So just to be clear, what have they been able to achieve specifically?
Yeah, so you see, what you see is very easy to destroy, but to fix it takes you longer. Even just literally in construction, when you say demolish this house, you can demolish it within 30 minutes. But to build it, it takes a lot of time. So when the caretaker came, a lot of issues were actually born. First of all, issues of registration. Very important. When we don't have a valid register, we don't, a lot of members join, a lot of members left, a lot of people die. We don't have a standardized register. They have to standardize those registrations. And also we have to look at the people that are coming in, we have various governors coming in, various interests. So for you to articulate and aggregate this, most of these people came in because of the trust they have in the caretaker committee, because of the trust they have in the person of the chairman of the caretaker committee, that's His Excellency So automatically, he has to stay back and see that all these people are being accommodated, and that all their fears of being sidelined are being allayed, and to see that, okay, they are fully integrated into the party. You know how many governors came into the party. when this caretaker comes. You know how many senators, how many former governors, how many political giants across the region, across the all 6 geopolitical zones, people came in. So all these people, you could just okay, a caretaker committee, me and you have discussion. I came into the party. You hand over the next day. I don't know who is taking over. You know, people have this fear. So the interest, politics is all about interest, and the essence of doing politics is winning election. So for you not just to say, okay, you are just half baked a committee and you hand over and without taking care, then the entire essence of bringing in the caretaker committee is being defeated. So at least if I said 1 year is a lifetime, maybe they took the first lifetime to see that they bring back people into the party, and second lifetime to integrate them. So once the people come in and they are properly integrated, so the other aspect that the new working committee will inherit has to do with conducting election, which has guidelines. They have
Right.
to follow the guidelines strictly and implement the guidelines. So their own is going to be majorly implementation. But what this caretaker is doing, a lot of back office work, which had to be done with only somebody that is trusted, only somebody that has the patience
Well, Mr.
and the
Mustafa,
acumen to do that.
I,
So,
I,
so
I
it's a
thought
lot of work. I want to believe, yeah.
right, I thought politics was primarily to better the lives of people with the right policies and governance before you now talk about winning elections. But it would seem that winning elections is
Oh,
first,
no, no,
right?
no, no. You policies, all parties have manifestos. And there's no party, no matter how stupid it is, for it to do an anti-people manifesto. If you look at all our political parties, if you look at their manifesto, you see that they have good manifestos. But you can only implement your manifesto if you win election. So primarily for political parties, if because you have to be in the game to play the game. If you are not in in governance, what policy are you going to implement? So first of all, if you are building a party, first of all, you have your manifesto, which all of us know. Everybody knows APC manifesto. We are progressive in nature, and we are keeping to our manifesto, and we are trying as much as possible to see that what are in these manifestos are being implemented in the societies when we win election. But
Mm.
what we are talking about party administration, primarily for an administrator of a political party, for you to be able to implement all these policies to better the life of people, to give dividend of democracy, first of all, you have to win election. And winning election, you have to be able to convince people. That's why some political parties, which I don't want to mention names, they have lost that touch. They have lost the ability to convince people. So they
Mm.
have resorted to just shenanigans and blame game.
Okay.
But you have to be able to come to sit with people, talk with people, convince people to come to join you. And this is what the caretaker has done. You can see the quantum of people that came. So I want to believe they have played their cards well as political administrators, as political party administrators.
Well,
So
you have
and when they
spoken.
are handing over the party, they are handing over a healthy party to anybody that is taking over.
Well, you have time and again spoken very highly of the caretaker leadership. Are you in support of the current leadership because of your ambition?
No, not necessarily. I don't because when I was introduced, I think I was introduced as a chairman, national chairman, hopeful, which it was strange to me. I'm not that kind of ambitious when it comes to running the political party itself. What I'm actually after is for me to see the political party which I'm part of forming is healthy and is able to win election, is able to implement its policies, and able to build on the foundation laid by Mr. President. This is this is basically my interest. And whoever is doing something towards that purpose, I'm 100% going to give him my support. And that is why I am laying it out and I'm giving you, these are things I'm telling you that many people will not want to discuss, but these are things that are on ground. These are things that you see the indicators are there. They are maths. They are mathematics. It's something that is science is on the ground.
Mm.
If
So
I
are you?
want to give you the list now, I will give you the list of people that joined the party and the value they added to add to the party and all this is and how they are integrated when they join the party, which is also very important. Because one thing for you to join the party is one thing, another thing for you to be integrated. So you understand. So this takes time because you meet people in the party. You have to also see how you can accommodate their interests, how to convince them to also allow people to. So a lot of work, a lot of give and take. is involved. So this is something that we cannot even discuss over the television in detail. But
Are
a
you saying then,
lot of back office.
are you saying in essence that you do not have an ambition to either run for chairmanship position or whatever leadership position in your party?
I am not running for national chairman of the party, and I am actually not even running for a particular position or in the party as a person. As a person, what I normally believe is I believe in people to see your quality and the stakeholders and the rank and file of the party to call on you, say, okay, we think this position suits you, come around for this position. Even the other position I held, national vice chairman, I was not the one that came out. It was my people that pushed me to do that. In fact, at the time I ran for that national vice chairman, I didn't even know how and where the cell phones. People, stakeholders, senior people from my state where the thing was on, they felt I should do it. They are the one that even did everything.
So
And the same thing, likewise.
are these stakeholders,
yeah.
pardon me, so are these stakeholders which you reference, these people that push you, are they maybe lurking in the corner, pushing you again to run for a position? Is that something that might happen?
Yeah, the stakeholders are discussing. Stakeholders have contacted me severally. We'll talk about one or two things, but these are things that are personal and are things that will only manifest when the convention comes. But it's not something that I will say, okay, I'm putting it before or over and above the interest of my party, over and above the interest of Nigerians. So that is why I'm not I'm not somebody that is a political applicant that want to come and put my own parochial or personal interest over and above what is supposed to be the interest of the collective interest of our party or the collective interest of people. So if somebody is doing well, despite the fact that I am not the one in the office, I should be seen to be supporting that person. So that is why I didn't see anything wrong with what the caretaker is doing. The caretaker is doing well, and anybody that is a well-meaning member of the party knows that they have to give kudos to the caretaker committee, and knows that organizing a convention to hand over at this critical time has to be something that is very critical. Something has to be done properly planned. You know, something that is to be rushed. Because once you rush into something and you get it wrong, you don't have time for reparation. Because as you said earlier, it's coming close to election. So they have to do it right. But once they do it right, the transition is going to be seamless.
Is this February? Is next month rushed? Do you think there should be more time?
I'm not saying even tomorrow may not be rushed. But what I'm saying is that you will not put the cart before the horse. First of all, make sure that you have all the stakeholders on board. You have aggregated all interests and ensure that you are handing over a healthy party. That's fair. Then the date comes second. For me, it can be tomorrow, it can be this night, but those things are the prerequisites I'm setting. So long as those things are done, there's no time that is late, and there's no time that is too early. But those things must be done, and I want to believe the caretaker putting all hands on deck to see that those things. I mean, to a large extent, most of these things are being met. They are just put finishing touches and ensure that we got it right, as I said earlier, because we don't have time for reparation. We have to get it right.
So as we wind down now, let me just ask you, because there are talks about the party maybe having a consensus candidate. Is that an idea you support?
Yeah, you see, in the constitution of the party, you should look at the constitution of the party. The mode of select elections, first is consensus. It's when the consensus fails that you now go for either direct or indirect primaries, even in elective positions. So the same thing with electing the leader of the party. Because the benefit of consensus is that it's like the benefit of alternative dispute resolution in litigation. The same benefit, because you'll be able to do election and without feelings are not being hurt. Because as men, we have this ego. By the time you lose election to someone, it takes a very good loser for him to be able to come and cooperate and assist or work with the other person he lost with. But if it were consensus, we say, I could have won, but because they begged me to step down, we had consensus. That's why he became the leader. So then your ego is intact, and you are more likely to work with the person. Sociologically, that is how it is. And the same thing, as I said, arbitration. When you go to court with someone and you've been awarded damages, the relationship is off. Or if it's arbitration or mediation or conciliation, one of the ADRs, and you're able to settle out of court, you find out that in the end, you still maintain your relationship or business relationships. So the same thing with that's the benefit of consensus. So me, I'm somebody who is pro consensus, not just for party administration election. Even during the primaries, everybody knows. Even when I was a national vice chairman, I tried to foster a lot of consensus between people, because I know the damages caused normally by competitive elections between people. People ego left bruised, and most of them would now want to be vindictive or vengeful against the winner.
Just before we go, let me. Okay, so let me take you up on this, because there are a lot of Nigerians that might be watching now, and they're thinking, I mean, what's the point of all this? They look at security, insecurity. Just before just before we came to you, we talked about some of the security incidents in the country. And they look at the economy, they look around and say, what's even the point, really? We've had successive, not just party conventions, we've had successive general elections. And it would seem as though, clearly, we're not where we ought to be just yet. So, to the Nigerian watching and thinking, what have we gained from political parties in our recent history? What have we gained from elections? What would you be telling them?
What is wonderful about human beings generally is that God created us as beings that quickly forget things. That's why just the way we forget sorrow and all these horrible things that will happen to us, we forget good ones too. So that is the nature of human being. So 80% of us variably live in the moment. There's a lot of rooms for improvement, and the security situation is not something that all of us are yearning for. Security happens to be my domain. As we speak, I'm a PhD candidate in peace, conflict, and strategic studies. I have my master's in the same field and also a degree in defense studies. So I would say very soon I can be an authority when it comes to security. And by the grace of God, I specialize in international security and international terrorism. So I actually have the credentials to speak on things bordering security. The situation we find ourselves is a product of neglect of the society over time, and people now become emboldened. And also, we have only two philosophies of war, where the third we are still trying to galvanize. We have the government, we have the military, we don't have the people. And for you to win any war, whether conventional or a guerrilla war like this, you have to have the three aspects of security. These people that kidnap, these people that are Boko Haram, these people that are bandits, are people that live within communities, they are within the societies, and most of them are within and are harbored. So the security people are fighting a faceless enemy. There's no defined force you are fighting, and you are now having the dilemma of being civil and trying to preserve the life of people who, among which, are trying to kill you. So it's very hard.
Okay.
When you are fighting this kind of war.
Well,
the government, in its own part, if you look at the procurements that we have been doing, the government is doing its own bits.
Okay. Well, Mr. Mustafa, we're out of time now. Well, I told you that we were winding down. We're totally out of time. Apologies. But I just wanted you to take about 2 minutes to speak to Nigerians. But sadly, we're totally out of time. There'll be questions about what you mean by we don't have the people. But perhaps we'll take on this conversation another time. But we'll have to thank you so much, Mr. Saliu Mustafa, who's former APC National Vice Chairman Northeast. We thank you for your time on the program tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
We'll go on a break now, and when we return, we'll speak with a member of the opposition People's Democratic Party, the PDP, is a member of the National Assembly as well, and issues around the state of the nation, the 2023 presidency, more importantly, how to make Nigeria better, will be our topic for discussion in a moment. Please stay with us. You're welcome back. We're in the second leg of the program tonight, and we're being joined by a member of the opposition People's Democratic Party. Senator Okajev is a senator representing Benue Northwest Senatorial District. He joins us live from our Abuja studio. Senator Jev, it's good to have you on the program tonight. Let me begin where I ended with Mr. Mustafa, and it's about, political parties, the series of elections we have. And, people look around, and it's not just during the APC administration, even during the PDP administrations too. And some might just wonder, what's the essence of, participating in party politics, going to the polls to vote, and they look around and they don't quite see things measuring up. So what do you say to Nigerians who are in that dilemma?
Well, thanks for having me. Well, what I would say to Nigerians is that the alternative to all of that is having political parties contest for elections and get into power, the flip side of it is that we have military dictatorship. And we've gone through all of that, and I don't think Nigerians will want to get to that. That is not to say that, if political leadership is not accountable, Nigerians should be happy just because the alternative is military dictatorship. That is why we have a multi-party democracy. If one party gets into power and, fail to deliver on their promises, you try another political party. We are we've taken after American style of democracy, and that is what happens there. They hardly will allow one party to rule for more than 8 years, even though they can go on and on as long as they have the votes. But they don't, because what happens is that after staying so long in power, people begin to take a lot of things for granted. And so you have several parties in America, but ultimately two major political parties. One would do at the very most 8 years, and then they will vote them out and bring in another one. That is what should be happening here regularly. The PDP that I belong to was in power for 16 years. Now, at a point, it looked like they took a lot of things for granted, and the APC capitalized on that, came in with a lot of propaganda, made a lot of promises, and Nigerians believed them then, and they took over. And, looking back, we've gone from, as they say, frying pan to fire. That is exactly what. So we are getting to election season, and Nigerians will know who has done what, in spite of the fact that towards the end, the PDP, took a lot of things for granted. PDP has delivered on a lot of promises that they gave to Nigerians in the 16 years that they governed. Now, what do we have here? What we have here is a party of propaganda that has made lots and lots of promises. Let's not forget, for instance, that one of the key issues that brought the APC to power was security, or insecurity, if you like. Now, 7 years down the line, we've gone from bad to worse. Okay? So Nigerians are not fools. Nigerians are not fools. They know that trusting that party is not the way to go. That is why some of us were very upset when, for some time, it looked like PDP wasn't getting its act together. But thank God we did. With the last national convention, and we have a stable leadership in place. I think Nigerians will begin to see that we are now better prepared to take over from this party that has failed Nigerians.
It's interesting you use that analogy of frying pan to fire, but don't you think Nigerians deserve better than either the frying pan or the fire? They don't deserve to even be in the heat at all. So perhaps there's a need for a third option, because if what we have is a frying pan and a fire, I don't want to be in any of those.
No, you wouldn't want to be. That was just a manner of speaking. Like I said, before the frying pan, we had a lot of comfort, a lot of promises. I don't want to go back to start to rail out the benefits and the advantages, that the PDP's governance brought to Nigeria. They were there. But like I said, sometimes, I mean, if you go by how this democracy is practiced as well, it is not ideal to allow one party to govern for too long, because definitely with the experience that we've had in this country, you begin to talk about that frying pan. So it's not as if one party is frying pan, the other is fire. I mean, don't push my analogy too far. That's not what I meant. But what I'm trying to say is now the PDP has recognized the fact that the mistakes were made in the past, and they lost power because of those mistakes. Another party came and went further down the line from those mistakes that were made by the PDP. And the PDP is ready with the new leadership of the party to get its act together, and that's what I meant.
Right. Well, the analogy essentially means from bad to worse. So I was just following through. I wasn't trying to push it too far. But still on that point, really, and this is a question a lot of people ask, especially people that are not, in party politics. I mean, majority of Nigerians don't belong to political parties anyway. So they don't quite understand a lot of things that happen within the parties. When parties see, the state of the nation, for example, insecurity, the economy, and the usual suspects. They wonder, how do you internalize that within your parties? I mean, the PDP governs states in Nigeria. You're represented in the National Assembly. So when you hear about, insecurity, for example, what response do you give? What do you do within parties and, other organs associated?
We've had this debate over and over again about managing security in a country like this with the kind of security architecture that we do have. It is very clear that there's a big limit placed on the governors. Okay, what do I mean? They are called chief security officers, but what do they actually control? Everything is controlled from Abuja. So it is the party that is controlling the power at the center, at the federal, that has the responsibility of providing security to a very large extent. Because sometimes, even for political reasons, if a governor is trying, you see that he's being undermined from Abuja. We've seen that. Okay, so yes, each party has its own manifesto and what it can do when it gets into power. But when we talk about what it can do when it gets to power, I think largely in terms of security, it has to be at the center. Otherwise, you can only back, but biting may not just be it. That's what I meant.
So aside the governors, I also talked about representation in the National Assembly. Incidentally, you're a member of the National Assembly. And let me just follow up with, perhaps a review of the previous year, the activities of the National Assembly, which you're a part of. How much were you able to change the narrative? How much were you able to contribute to improving the situation, specifically now?
Okay, yeah, okay. So hardly will you go to the National Assembly on any sitting day that you won't find a motion seeking a resolution to bring attention to the matter of insecurity. Hardly will you find that. But again, like I was giving the example of the governors, there's a limit based on the legal framework that provides for a national legislature like ours. Okay, there's not much you can do other than to bring attention to it and call those responsible to take action. That is especially when you're talking about a motion. A motion is a resolution, and a resolution, like we are always reminded, is a mere advisory. Okay, so but we've been doing that. We've held security summits. Every action that could be taken within the framework of the powers that the National Assembly has been taken. Okay, so it all goes back to this. We have called, the other day we called all the security chiefs, locked ourselves inside the chambers, and asked what exactly is going on and how can we redeem the situation. And we do talk, and we give our recommendation to the executive arm of government that has the responsibility of implementation. And so that's what we've been doing. That's what we've been doing. But like I said, everything goes back to the executive arm of government at the center. They are the ones. And it is based on, like I pointed out, it is based on the promises that, oh, there's insecurity in the land. If you come, we'll do away with that in 2015, that brought this government to power. So Nigerians should be asking them questions. What have they done with those promises that they gave Nigerians?
But isn't the National Assembly meant to be the check for the executive? Are you implying that the executive is more powerful than the legislature in Nigeria?
No, executive is the implementer of what the National Assembly does. We can hold, like I said, we can hold security summit and give advice, but implementation is on them. We can, if they say they need money, we provide the money. And let me tell you, I have said this severally, that any time the budget appropriation bill comes before the National Assembly, one area that is hardly touched, if anything, if it's touched, is to upscale it, is the issue of security. Because we share the view that you have to be secure before any other development. Every other thing ties back to security or insecurity, as the case may be. Because if you go today and commission, say, a rail line, and the following day, the bandits go and destroy it, I mean, you have been taken back to ground zero. Okay, so everything ties back to insecurity. So that is why anything concerning security, when it comes before the National Assembly, it is treated expeditiously, from the appropriation bill that comes to every other request that comes in terms of purchase of arms. And we've been given that cooperation from the National Assembly. But it is on the executive arm of government to implement. That is why the ball always rolls back to their court.
All right. So, I mean, the PDP has spoken time and again. Even you have sold your party tonight. So, if you could tell Nigerians what new thing the PDP is bringing on board. I mean, we're aware of the challenges, really, but we need to know the solutions and who might bring those solutions. So, for your party, what is the difference between the PDP of 2015, pre-2015, and the PDP of today?
Kayode, let's face it, the PDP came and brought a lot of goodies to Nigerians until towards the end, like I said, maybe because they stayed too long in power. Like I was saying, left to me, since we are copying the American system of government, we copy the way they do it. We allow one party to stay in government for maybe 8 years, and even if they are trying, you allow the others because there's this tendency to take people for granted. It's a human nature, okay? So PDP did a lot of good things. It was towards the end that things started to go, if you like, go off rail because of maybe the long duration that they stayed in power. So it's not as if PDP has nothing to offer to Nigerians. If we have the time, we can begin to go back and some of the things that we are enjoying today that were brought about by the PDP while they were in governance. Okay, so we already have an idea what can happen, and we have learned the mistakes. That's the point. We have learned the mistakes of why, at a point, we lost the trust of Nigerians, and the PDP, the APC came with the propaganda and took over power. But unfortunately, have failed to deliver on the promises that they gave to Nigerians. I think that's the point I'm making.
You also, it sounds like you're saying it's meant to be a turn-by-turn arrangement. So the APC does 8 years. It's only fair to give the PDP 8 years. But I doubt if that should be the criteria.
Point of correction. No,
okay,
point of correction. I'm not saying, even in America that I'm citing, it's not every party that comes that has 8 years. And it's not as if a party cannot go beyond 8 years. No, that's not the law. For executive position now, they have been paid to 8 years per person. But the party itself can rule as long as they provide the material to govern. But the point I'm making is that there's this human nature that if you are in power for so long, at a point you start to think that somebody wrote some time back that there's a demon in that office. When you stay there for a long time, you start to feel like a small god. That's the point I'm making. So, left to me, if a party comes and they are governing, after a long time, Nigerians should change and give to the other party. Maybe they will come with fresh ideas. That's just the point. I'm not saying 8 years and then 8 years. If you don't deliver on the promises, after 4 years, you'll be voted out.
And that takes me to my previous question, Senator, because you said maybe they'll come with, fresh ideas. So tell Nigerians, if you may, what new thing the PDP is bringing on board. I mean, we've referenced it time and again, how Nigerians have experienced the PDP. So back to that same question, what new ideas the PDP, is the PDP bringing on board?
Okay, let's put it this way. There wasn't always insecurity while the PDP was in power. It was towards the end that insecurity started to snowball, okay? Now we know from what has happened now that the best way to handle it is not the way it's being handled now. I mean, every experience you have makes you better if you are ready to move forward, okay? So as for in terms of infrastructure, PDP has provided a lot of infrastructure, okay? As for, I don't think Nigerians voted out PDP because they didn't provide infrastructure. It was this issue of insecurity that was snowballing, getting out of hand, that was capitalized upon by the APC. So it's not as if there are a whole new set of ideas that the PDP needs to provide better leadership than it provided. It's just the idea, like I said, that, you know, having stayed for long, the cries of Nigerians about this insecurity appeared at that point to be unheeded by the then president, and that's why APC took over. So it's not a whole lot that PDP even needs to do in terms of learning from its mistakes. The mistakes were few towards the end of its 16 years. That's the point. I hope I'm making myself clear, but that's just the point I was making.
Right. Well, Nigerians are listening, and of course, the electorate is wise. They know what to look out for. I mean, the ideas, you know, the solutions, and the rest. So the ideas, yes, that's a way to sell your party. But of course, there's also the permutations, the zoning arrangements, and the rest. Does it look like your party has a full grasp on how to approach this? Yes, we know where the chairman of your party comes from. But in terms of the presidential and vice presidential candidate, is your party, does it have a handle on this?
Well, if it comes to zoning, I think PDP is the father of zoning arrangement in Nigeria. They are the ones that brought this. It's even in the PDP constitution. Others are just following. So if it comes to that, I don't PDP has no problem at all. And for instance, when Yar'Adua became the president, and Ahmadu Ali was the chairman of the party, also from the north. But immediately Yar'Adua became the president. I mean, they did the right thing. It was taken from Ahmadu Ali and given to somebody from the southern part of the country. So for now, the presidency has not been zoned, but the PDP is good at reshuffling itself. So I don't think that would pose a problem at all. The important thing is to get somebody who can deliver on the promises of the party, the manifesto, and what the PDP is capable of doing for Nigeria.
You know, the classic debate really is competence versus zoning. And I mean, this is something we have taken up time and again. But I mean, you can't rule out those considerations, zoning, how, you know, to sell your party as a party that, you know, has the spread sort of, that considers all those on board. Would you be supporting the zoning of presidency within your party?
Yeah, I've just said that the PDP is very good at zoning, and that is the appeal that it has to a lot of Nigerians. It has always considered zoning. It has even included zoning in its party constitution. I think about the only, I don't know about APC now, but at least it was the first political party to enshrine zoning in its own arrangement. So it's not new to PDP. I think that one is the attraction that it has. And personally, yes, to answer directly, I go for zoning. And of course, in zoning, we must not sacrifice competence. You don't just say, oh, you should go here and you give to anybody, so that at the end of the day, they will start saying, oh, this party has not delivered. We have to combine the two. And every part of the country has people who are capable of governing this country. And so the thing is just to look carefully and come up with that kind of person where it will promote zoning and also competence.
So since you support zoning, from what region or sub-region would you want that candidate to come from?
No, that's beyond me for now. You see, I'm just part of the whole. We now have a leadership in place that is focused, okay? Sooner than later, they will put in place a zoning committee that will come up with. I wouldn't want to sit here and air my views, and that will, try to undermine what that zoning arrangement will come up with. It's too early, but whatever my party comes up with, I will, as a loyal party man, I will support it.
But Senator, you're entitled to your own opinion. I mean, you're a man of your own. So you can actually, if you have someone in mind, someone that you think, I mean, this person fits the bill, or at least this region, looking at, you know, the successions and all, this region should have it, you should be able to say it.
Well, incidentally, PDP is a party that has a lot of competent people. So I don't want to sit on television and begin to reel out names of who is competent and who is not competent. I think in the fullness of time, when that committee does its job, you can be sure I will follow, I'll line up behind them, knowing that the PDP is a party that lays premium on fairness and, of course, zoning.
So let me ask you this, because this has been the position of a lot of people. And as I said, people are entitled to their own opinions. Yes, the party is supreme, but that doesn't take away the fact that you can have your say, perhaps not have your day. After all, that's democracy. So is this because people don't want to be in the bad books of whoever emerges eventually, so you try to keep you know, your thoughts, your ideas to yourself? Why does it seem like people are keeping that close to their chest?
Kyle, at the risk of sounding immodest, I'm a high-ranking member of the PDP. And I wouldn't want to start, or even not encourage anybody to start giving divergent views on where it should go and where it should not go, to start giving the impression that PDP is in crisis. I think that is the danger of doing that. Maybe some other person whose views may not be that weighty when it comes to such matters can sit at a beer parlor or any other place and make their views known. But if high-ranking members of the party begin to make their views known, the impression will be created that, oh, they are fighting amongst themselves, and I think it's not wise to start heading in that direction.
Right. So on a final note, Senator, let's focus on the leadership question now. What sort of leadership is the PDP planning to provide for Nigerians?
Well, PDP, first of all, we now have leadership of the party that is very, very focused. I think since we used to hear about crisis in the party, you know, and I was very loud, even on this platform, to condemning what was then happening within the PDP. And since we had the national convention, I don't think we'll be hearing about crisis within the party again, because Nigerians, first, the party membership of the PDP believes in the current leadership of the party. And because of the pedigree of the chairman and other members of the working committee. And so they are building and rebuilding to ensure that they present the party as a united party capable of leading us into 2023 election. I think that is what should be the primary consideration of members of the party and the expectations of Nigerians too. Because I know a lot of people will, are you people serious? You want to replace the APC and you are fighting amongst them. So that used to be the argument. It's no longer the argument now. Rather, it's the APC that is having parallel congresses everywhere when they held their congresses. Half of the states were having parallel congresses, and they are now talking about the crisis. The byline in the interview that you had before mine was saying, wrote internal crisis, APC internal crisis. You won't write that about the PDP again, because we are now focused on ensuring that 2023 is ours for the taking.
Well, that's not to say that your party has not had its fair share as well. But we have to anchor at this point, Senator Okajev, Senator representing Benue Northwest in the 9th Assembly. It's been great talking to you, Senator. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
It's a pleasure being with you. Mm-hmm.
So, well, we're still scratching the surface. It's still a long time up until the 2023 general elections. I will ensure to focus on the major issues, leadership, solutions, and ideas to make Nigeria better. But that's our package for tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikile. Good night.